Okay, good afternoon to all. Thanks for your time to join for this webinar. I'm Joe from Matrix Invent. I'm actually the sales director to handling the region of ASEAN and Australia, New Zealand. And today our subject will be very much into showing, the objective of how you can store your process data from your sensors, and IoT device into a data historian. Yeah. So perhaps some people may not known popular of this word, known to this word of data historian. Basically, is that how you can really store your process data in a kind of specialized design database that can really for you to store data across years, months, even 10, 20 years, So that's what they call data historian. So Canary is a product from US, Pennsylvania, and it has been in the market for some time. Yeah, so first of all, of course, I think welcome for all data scientists and data engineer. So before we move on is that I think we have to always understand, why, what is the wish list or data for the data scientist or the data engineer. So basically, I think the most important thing for them is to store everything, if everything, the raw data that you want to store, how can you pull out, the data fast enough to really analyze it at any given time? Or even you can open access, to different client views, or maybe even to different people in an organization. That means you can set the rights of the view of all the data that you want to do and the control on it as well. Yeah, and most importantly, the wishes will be how can you actually really, interpret all this machine process data and then to act upon it. So that's one of the key things that we're going to share today for the wishes of all of you. Yeah. So what is holding you back? Because of database headaches, management headaches. I think the most important to understand is that when you are in information technology, you are actually from that arena. So basically, to managing MySQL, MySQL, SQL database, Oracle. So these are the day-to-day things that you may be very strong and specialized in. But however, if you are coming from OT, we call it the operational technology expertise, that are from Industry 4.0, or maybe you are the data scientist from IoTs, So most of the time, you may not be actually well, know the knowledge to how to manage the database, on this area. So that's why it's kind of like very unbalanced in between IT and OT in this segment. Yeah, it's a key universal challenge of the whole world. Yeah, so very high cost. Every investment that you're talking about to go into this data historian in the world is very high cost, and sometimes very hard to justify the return of investment if you are not those like a utility company and oil and gas. So that's some of the key challenge that for, I would say, most of the data scientists and data engineer in this industry. Yeah. So today, what we're going to share is that how we can help you to transform your operation, with Canary. So store large quantity of process data. From now on, how can you use Canary to store a lot of data? How can you add a meaningful context to the data? Example, if you got a lot of sensors and IoT, so one or two sensors doesn't make any sense, but if you do not have any kind of like context to be assigned and understand what does it work for, what's the purpose for all the sensors, yeah? And most importantly, how can you get the right tools, right costs, that you can be out of the box, that you can use, easy to manage your operational technology issue. Okay, so we speak about 30 minutes. I'm trying to finish. This time I'm going to look at the clock. So as accurate as possible. Yeah. So let's guide you. So Canary is a product that we in the market for almost 35 years. And 19 installations worldwide they have, So I think back then they even have some like a business model like OEM to some partners who put in their name. So there's quite a long, I would say, experience in this industry. 55 countries, 20 industry across. You can see all the big names like Murphy, NASA, Philip Morris, BP, Bays, Schlumberger's, that you can name. There's a lot of these big names are actually counting and using on Canarylabs. So It can help you to transform complex data, to easy to understand information. And most important, I would say, for our experience for the past 6 years that partner with Canary, is that it can be very scalable, from a system that is so as small as 100 tags, to start very simple until we got some side of the customer who are managing more than possibly few hundred thousands tags, So that depends, but most important is very scalable solution. Okay. So there's very key 3 main steps of it. The step 1 will be collect and store your data. Second step will be how you assign your data context. The step 3 will be how you're going to maximize from it. Okay, whatever it is, the first step will be how do you collect the data. So collecting data is actually via collectors. So Canary actually got collectors for you to install, that comply to the specification, especially when you have sensors, comply to OPC, UADA, or you got a lot of IoTs. This day we are talking about Mqtt, that with the spark plug B specification that you can transform and to store into Canarylabs. You got direct SCADA systems that you can have connected to connect to it to get data. And sometimes you may got some SQL database that already got some data in it. How are you going to actually get all this data to be combined? To put some context into it. CSV file, web, .NET, there's plenty of different, format that you can connect to. But most important, the passion, of Canarylabs is to connect, because with the connection, then we can only get all your process meaningful data into the system, and eventually how you're going to use from it. Yeah. So you can just see this diagram. The conventional way, you got sensors, to go to your PLC device, which is one way that you can really move into the OPC server, and then OPC is a format that you can really go into Canary historian server. Very straightforward. And then the client tool will be something for you to actually access to the data. So I will explain later. And for same thing in Mqtt brokers environment these days. So in a way, if you got all the sensors that now you can really subscribe to Mqtt brokers, and then Mqtt brokers will also be easily to be connect to Canarylabs to get all the data, from even 100 tags to even multiple million tags. We have tested one of the performance before with one of our vendors. Even they have a cloud-based Mqtt brokers in Germany, and then you got a site data from Siemens machine from US, until you got another the Canary historian server that residing in another part of the world. So it take only about possibly real time, almost seconds, to really get all this data to be recognized, stored, and analyzed from it. So the performance is very, very good on that. Yeah. So Canary, you got OPC and so how it works is actually when you have a connector, connector actually act like it's like a sender service. So sometimes when you disconnected from the site, due to the networks non-stable, disconnected, a heavy rain or something like that, So sometimes you got to have certain things like the Canary connector act like a cache to really store all your data. From the cache, when the network restore, it will automatically resend all the data back to the designated, historian server. So that's something that is peace of mind that you can straightforward to install as many collectors as you want. Yeah. So you can also be sending to multiple sites of the historian. In the case that sometimes you may got some sites in Kuala Lumpur, some site in Jakarta, some site in Sydney, some site even in Taipei. So how you want to make sure all these sites data can be shared and sent to different locations. So it's very easy setup. That is the strong point of Canary server. Yeah, you can be logging multiple sites, sending to multiple server as well. And NoSQL time series database. Actually, this is something that very important. It is a time series database that I would say it's an IP designed by Canarylabs. So whereby it is very fast that you can store, compress, and very quickly retrieve. From even years of the data. Not much maintenance that require. Optimized for process data and performance. No DBA skill required. From scalable of 100 tags to 2 million tags. Connect local historian to corporate historian server, dual logging, mirror service. So what about dual logging is that, if you got really multiple sites, I think it's more on mirror. Means that sometimes when you got like oil and fuel or plants, you know, I mean, in Kelantan or in Terengganu or in Bangkok, you know. So you want to send all this data into Kuala Lumpur control room, but at the same time, you want to send the data into London for another, I mean, you know, a foreign investor to look at how the plant operation looks like as it goes. So these are the key things that you can really send data and customize and really like, you know, I mean, Legoing, I mean, I would say using the word to pick where you want to send the data to. Yeah. And then you also have dual logging that you can do. The collector itself, it can be 2 site, 3 site, 4th site, 5th site to 100 site. There's actually no cost on the logger. So you can have as many sites as you want that you can log the data and then send it over to, I mean, the designated historian server that you wanted to. Yeah. Okay, so very straightforward that you can really customize by easily from using the connectors, you know, to send the data to the servers. Yeah. So performance does not degrade over time. One of the key things is that, you know, I mean, when you are using a SQL database, sometimes when you use it 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, but without tuning, indexing, and really doing some maintenance, you will see the performance degrade over time. But for Canarylabs data historian, you can really store, you know, a lot of data, maybe even like you just mentioned at the beginning, 5, 10, 20 years without any issue at all. Yeah, and you have a very high speed of the write and also the read speed. In particular, in some of the industry, like maybe nuclear plants, you know, I mean, utilities, you need to know what is the nanosecond or millisecond that cause certain things that happen eventually, or you want to analyze after a particular incident, or maybe even to analyze a particular incident to make improvement. So these are the key things that it will be depends on your data coming, but Canary will support up to this, I mean, split second, millisecond and nanosecond of the data history to be stored. Yeah, very quick, you know, 1.5 million write time, 2.5 million read time. So these are the key minimum standard that can be guaranteed by Canarylabs historian server. Okay, so this is a video that you can just take a look at, shown by some of our one of our Canary partners from US. Yeah, so if you can see that, you know, I mean, this is an example of one of the sites which is sending about more than 250,000 texts of data. Okay, but it is connecting to even 4 similar sites from it. So with this 4 similar site, they are sending almost, you can estimate, around 1 million texts, you know, possibly per second go over to Canary. Okay. So each of them 250,000 stacks, you know. And you can see that, you know, from here, it is writing almost 1 million updates per second into the server. Not really you need any specialized server, you know, just a common server. From there, you can just do an update that you can see now, you know, from almost close to 1 million. Yeah. But the crucial point is that, you know, if you look back into the CPU usage, you know, even you're writing 1 million text of data, you don't need very like that kind of industrial or super heavyweight machine. If you look at just this is normal Intel, you know, the utilization of the CPU is only 70%. Then you look at the memory is about only 16%, you know, I mean. So basically, in a nutshell, I mean, I would say it is not resource driven, even you're talking about such a high performance standard of read and write speed into the database historian itself. So just imagine you got a lot of IoT devices, you know, a lot of, I mean, sensors, you know, across maybe even not just only a building, not a warehouse, you know, perhaps even the entire region. You can connect everything back to a control room. This is a key advantage of such data historian that can really go into that kind of performance guarantee for your business. Yeah. Okay, but what is tag? I think for data engineer, I think they very much understand what is tag. You know, tag is actually, it's like a record. You know, then you got a timestamp. You know, you got a value. You got a quality of it. Is it a clear record they're going to send over? And what's the metadata properties? That means what is the kind of description of this this tag itself? Is it a sensors measuring by PSI? Is it somehow sensors measuring by temperature? So these are commonly, I mean, called as a tag. Yeah. So lossless compression is something that if you using Canary is something that is the IP, you know, itself, you know, that can really ensure that all raw data will not be lost. Whatever it can be connected, I mean, collected from the collector, send it over to the historian. You will got all the data that you can have. You know, eventually how you're going to massage and view and put context into the data. So lossless compression. some simple server today, terabyte, you can easily, I would say, you can store 5 to 10 years of data. Yeah. Best in class performance, something that I would say from our experience in the market, you're looking into like really about the top 1, 2nd, or 3rd, top 3 vendors in the market who can have this kind of like performance, 3 times data compression, store raw data values forever, out of the box, that's important, but we just discussed the OT people can just pick it up, install and use it, no data loss. It's pretty simple. A database that you can really depend on and very simple to use without too much IT knowledge that is required. Yeah. Okay, so the step 2 will be more into assigning your data context from after you collect the data. So because you see, when you got a production line like this, this what you've shown on the screen, you got second production line. Most of the time, all these data are machine kind of like field names, it doesn't represent too much anything. Very difficult to understand. If you got 1 production line, 2 production line is okay, but think about if you got 10 production line or 20 production lines, that will be really out of any data scientist and engineer, that kind of like capability to remember. So what does it mean, on that? So important is that how you can really make this make sense, by really assigning some meaningful field name. Then we can really become the meaningful reports from there. So one of the key thing on that, very simple. Okay, so how Canarylabs also can be used is that it can really help to getting the the how do I say, sorry, the historian to have a view, the events, the calculator engine. So basically, Canary is having a client that allow you to put a context, like a virtual view on top of all the raw data, events, and calculator engine. Yeah. So you have a multiple view. If in the case that sometimes, especially if you are an operator for a wind farm, you're operator for a plant, intelligent building management, or maybe even any other things, because you're operator, you may have a different view that to your client. So you can still use this like a multi-tenant situation that allow people to have different view into the data asset and the data trending that you want them to see. Not just only internal, but even external as well. Yeah. So this is the simple view. You put a view into the utilities program to make it become like that. That is the key thing. How Canary can help to resolve. Yeah. So the other one thing is that you can really actually also assign a data, asset models, because you got example a particular site. You got line 1, you got boiler, filler, water main, you got boiler, filler, and you got boiler, filler. There's a lot of things that happening that in your plants, in your utilities, area. But sometimes you do want to calculate, what is the data asset, or group them together. And how can you do that? By using Canary, you can easily, by really dragging all these relevant asset and assign it become like a group for you. So you are very much easy to learn and evaluate, the trend, or even study all this asset model that you have. So that's one of the key things that a lot of data engineers will like it, because since you got 4 line, example, this is about like 4 production line, you may got 20 production line, 50 production line. But sometimes I just want to focus to understand, is all my boiler, running into a real, like a acceptable pressure environment? So how do you look into it without having that much of raw data that pumping in together from you? So that is the key thing, that how you can use Canary to do it. Yeah. So client can request data based on asset. You can show oil boilers and the temperature, filtering based on the asset tag condition, like show all boilers, with the temperature more than 220 Fahrenheit. Okay. So it's actually, you can really imagine, like you're driving a car. When you're driving a car, most of the time, you got the raw data, 40, 60, 80 miles per hour or kilometers per hour. This is the raw data. So you may got condition-based data, if the sensors working or not working. That can be sometimes easily that you can really see from the SCADA machine, and stuff like that. But you may have got some calculated KPIs, because when you're talking about, I have such a half tank running on 40 miles per hour, how far can I go? That become a calculated KPI fields. So how you actually can even assign a new fields that based on a lot of data, that you come up with something that meaningful for you. That is the key thing that a lot of data engineer and data scientists wish list, for all these data historian and trending solution. Yeah. So a single calculation can be deployed to all, instance for asset type. run in real time while backfiling. 70 functions available, the digital scientific calculator that you can really design new text, the new text, I would say a KPI calculated text upon all the raw data text that you can do, yeah. So that you will see something like this example. This is a very simple one, but you can go into even much more, I would say, scientifically complex calculation. This is something that, from the boiler, if you based on some certain calculation, then you want to know the average temperature per hour. You want to know the fuel, the percentage of rejected bottles. You want to know the water main, totally daily volume per line. There's something that based on your calculation to further represent another type of information which is meaningful to you and your client. Yeah, so that's the key thing about how you can assigning a data context on it. So you got condition-based asset monitoring. You got reporting based on event performance. In the case that you want to know that if something happened, you want to send the report based on to the particular admin or clients or even the engineers. When something trigger points, you want to get some alert. You can always do that as well. Even you can analyze within a duration what kind of like the data. I mean to give different context. That why in this duration what is happening in between servo sensors and stuff like that. Yeah, so this is one of another key example, like event trigger level percentage, less than 25 and then temperature more than 80. You can put so numerous of this kind of like algorithms, to really, like show some meaningful tech for you. Yeah. Okay, last one will be much like maximize your operation. So I got about 10 minutes more. How to maximize that? Since after you got raw data, you need to really analyze the trend dashboard, and reporting on it. So, and then Canary does come with an Axiom software that can really help you to even build whatever trending that you want to see, dashboard, and give you a numerous different kind of reporting, built with HTML. In the case that you got using, iPad, or using a Android phone or iPhone, while you or Loon are moving away from the plant to having even a coffee outside, of the plant. Suddenly you got something, people call you, then you want to access back and to look into the dashboard. Then you can actually just use your iPad and your phone to look into it. So it is actually even supported without any redesign of the particular screen on it. Yeah. Designed for self-service reporting in a way like we just mentioned, that a lot of triggering based on algorithm that you can set. Yeah. And this is one of the very raw things. So sometimes when a lot of customers ask us, Joe, how much time that we need to spend to really design a dashboard? So I would say even when we first pick up the solution, it just taken about 1 to 2 hours that you can design. Something like that. Of course, I cannot compare to the experts from Canarylabs by themselves. They can really do it very fast. But for this like simple trend, you have a 4 trend, even additional calculated KPI text on top. It is quite easy that you can get a track. You can even talk about how to move, by like real time, the data that you want to see back from 5 months, 10 months ago, or even you want to really see an interval between 1 minute, 2 minutes. You can anytime to adjust, from this like a video or voice recording, play around and editor from it. So it's quite simple from that. Yeah. And if you want to really go into a bit much more beautiful, you can actually assign some donuts, and to your equipments. You can even put some effort to build the graph itself, to really make it much more meaningful. And sometimes, you can even do something like this, that I would say going forward, you can see more screen that really design, a particular dashboard that suit your own needs, the data engineer needs, because you're not talking about trending, you're talking about even how I can monitoring the entire of my data asset, my plant facilities, And one of the good thing about this is that I would say it is not just only for a particular, it don't tie to any vendor. Imagine that if you got something like Schlumberger, or you got maybe 3M, you got Siemens Solutions, sometimes some data historians are tied to certain vendors. But the good thing about Canarylabs is that they are very independent. In the case that you already have a lot of different SCADAs, or different, I would say even you got some historian already in place, how you can really consolidate the entire, plans, everything's into one, you can still use it because, the standard Mqtt brokers, or even OPC servers are all supported. So you can just drag the data from it and start to build another layer of the console or the dashboard to help you to oversee everything. Yeah. So you got something, you can even go to put in some of the map, geographical map if you wanted to know that where is the location of some of the oil rig field that located, in a way, yeah. And this is one of the very interesting one, because sometimes people are talking about, is data historian really only designed for oil and gas? In fact, it is not. So imagine that even in a warehousing environment, the intelligent building management system needs for all this warehousing. These days, pandemic, all warehousing are fully use it. So if you do not control well enough the temperature, so you may cause a problem of all this, stocks pile in your warehouse. Deteriorate the situation, the quality, the ladders, the food, if you cannot hit certain temperature of it. So, but in the meantime, how do you balance up by really saving energy? If you got looking into months of data, what is the data, the temperature outside the performance? So these are the key things that how historian can help you to look back into all this data. Then you can really make some tuning about your IBMS, or to some online real-time reporting, or perhaps even if any event trigger, the temperature become very hot, might be a fire. So while you're not in the plant, can you actually log in to look into what happening here by using a CCTV streaming that you can really, switch on the screen and then straight away comparing all the sensors, that side by side. Then you can have a much more control and overview of what is happening. Yeah. So that's what is quite important and quite interesting on it. So so connect your Canary to data. In the case that sometimes a lot of I would say customers and operators still like to see some very simple data from Excel. So we do have kind of like the data integration with Excel, that you don't have to retype. Whatever is already imported into the system, you can just drag and build an Excel report very easily. And if you want to do something automatic, you can even do using some macro to do it. Yeah, so easily solve all the reporting needs if you wanted to, even not just automated but ad hoc if you wanted to something to send to your customer. So perhaps the most common way is that you need to send, even though you got 500,000 of text of data, but sometimes the client may just want to see the calculated text that I want to know how much you can save from all this operation by minimizing the loss of oil level in the plant. So from there, from the report, I can see and monitor, but I just want to see 5 or 10 and continuously. So that's how useful will be coming from the Excel point of view. Yeah. So, okay, this is another example that you can see, that when you have a connector integrated Excel add-in, so you can just look at all these, the text that already, available, take it over, start to just build a value, build a calculation, and you can start to use it. So easy to build a report within seconds. Okay, so recap, public service, web API, the connectors itself, MQTT publishing client, you got SCADA connectors, ODBC connectors, OPC, HTTP. But perhaps one of the most important thing is that to understand Canary system. So you have connectors, you have a historian server starting from 100 text. Then you have Axiom, which is a client that you can create a virtual view on all the things that you want to trend, the dashboard, the calculated, fields and stuff like that. And then if especially when you want to connect to IoTs on using MQTT brokers. So today I actually involve this link in here. Is actually HiveMQ, one of the partners of Canarylabs. You can anytime go to the website and to create a user. I think they to provide a free 100 tag users that you can really test up yourself, how your MQTT, IoT data can go through via the cloud and send over to Canary. In the case you want to test, you can every time contact us. We will provide you a trial license and to look at how effective of the performance, besides like designing the screen, besides like assigning the data context. Just most important, look at how easy you can get data, store into data historian, and the performance of it to connect to every way of your system, possibly in a fraction of the cost these days. Yeah. Okay. So you can also decide, if you want to use cloud server. In fact, Canarylabs itself come with two solutions. One is cloud, one is on-prem. Currently, I think cloud solution mostly will be used in US, unless you're not data heavy. So the server is still in US. In the case you got a very special scenario, you want to store a lot of text of the data and wish that you got a cloud server to be in ASEAN or in Australia and New Zealand, you can always contact us. We can also design with Canary to get something done over this region as well. Yeah. Okay, so decide who will host the data, your host or Canary Cloud, and then unlimited or licensed by tech client. I mean, how many tags that you want. From a simple of 100 tags, then one concurrent user that you can start, for crowd and even for on-prem, and you can up to 5,000 tags, very scalable, and then you can all the way up, to even go to unlimited server. I think one of the key strength point of Canary system is that it provides, the collectors for you without any additional charge. In this case, that means that if you just need a simple system, but you can really have a lot of multiple connectors to allow you to store into different site with OPC server or maybe even MQTT brokers to subscribe from it. So you collect all the data and push it back, into, historian server of Canary. So this is something that very simple, very scalable. The key cost advantage amount in the competition for the market that we see in the past many years. So this is something the key thing from it. Yeah. So let us know if you got any requests. If you got we enter into a Q&A session. So we have just right 30 minutes. Okay. So getting started is very easy. Contact us for a free trial if you're interested. You can let us know, and then you can purchase the system SEX2 if you like it. Just continue with the system. Okay. And then we will even deploy and train you guys in how to use this as well. Okay, that's all. For the session, and now is the Q&A session. And let me see whether I can see some of the question from there. So,
I think just now there's a question asked by Safwan, and our colleague Tan already have to answer that.
Okay, that's good.
There's one question by Safwan. The last question there.
All right. So I think, yeah, okay, if Tan already explained it, that's okay. Any more question that you can also speak, let us know on that, just type in the question, and then Tan is actually our coin chief consultant for this Canary. Yeah, so anything, just let us know on that. Any more question?
There's one Tan is answering right now. Maybe Tan, you want to answer from here?
Hi, can you hear me? Hi. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sure, great.
Yep.
Hi. So, for connecting to us, let's say you want to have a proof of concept on the simple sensors, right? With Canaries, we very much depends on your simple sensor, what are the protocols, industry protocol that is supported. Okay, you may actually set up a simple OPC servers, all right, and connect your sensor to that OPC server. Then from OPC server, pump the data to the Canary historians. Okay, that's one way. Another way, if you're using the modern sensors, then most modern sensors, they already have the MQTT protocol support. Of course, Canary require a SparkBug version 1 protocol supported. So if let's say you have that, you just need to hook up your sensor to an MQTT broker, and from the MQTT broker, you can actually pump the data to the Canary historian and simulate all whatever you need. I hope this answers your questions.
Okay, thanks, Tan. Thanks, Safan, for your question. Safan, I think we will try to contact you to send you some info in the case you want to really play around with the system. We will be really happy to support you to test out in your environment on that. Yeah. Okay, so if there's no question, I think we will be ending the session. I try to type in my email here in the case that you would like to contact me for more information. Do let me know. But we do have your email. Then we will send. We will follow up with you. In the case that you need. Some follow-ups from there. no obligation. We will try our best to help you to understand how Canary work. In particular, today, I think facing the MQTT, a lot of people are very interested, when a lot of IoTs are coming in, how can data historians really extend the use in this IoT, IoT devices data by really connecting to the MQTT brokers. Yeah. So that would be something, the key thing. Well, Hive MQ is one of the key partner of Canary that you can really play around, and we've seen the demo many times. It's so easy to set up without any IT knowledge at all. But anytime, feel free to come and contact us anytime. Yeah, we will also follow up with you. Okay, if there's no question, thanks a lot. We will end today's session and hope you guys got a great day ahead and stay safe. Hopefully we can quickly recover from the pandemic together. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.